further.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who is going to want to speak? There's been a couple people that have mentioned the pros and cons, and the pros and cons are from the study. They're not the city's pros and cons. So we just listed them because we were going to refer to the study. Is there some reason, Ann, you, who speaks all the time, would wait until the very last moment? Well, you got to come up here.
Not so much about the trash.
This is Ann Forsberg.
Pause.
Excuse me.
Don't make a Scandinavian out of a German.
All right. Wouldn't want to do that.
No, I just wanted to say there's so many people here today wanting to know information. If you want to keep up on this, I suggest that everybody come to the Citizens Forum, which is held the first Saturday of every month from 10 to 12, because it's supposed to be every month, and now they're trying to make it quarterly. So we would like more people showing up at the Citizens Forum and telling them we need it every month. Thank you.
Is there, just a moment, is there anyone else who's going to want to speak? I mean, I'm not quite sure why it just pops into your head suddenly, or so. We'll keep going at this rate if you want, but we have Veronica Slutton right now.
Thank you, Council and Mayor. We did discuss this issue at the Citizens Forum this last Saturday, and I thought it was interesting because I think that's important that we all voice our opinion. And I really like our trash hauler, and they do a good job. And of course, it is tennis, and they. Like I say, when the truck went down the street the first day, other people, the garbage had been blown out of their trucks. The tennis man, not his responsibility, stopped his truck, jumped out, and picked up that garbage so that the street would be clean. I realize he can't do that all the time on all the streets, but at least it made an impression on us. I think it's important that we have a choice. We must have a choice. That's our freedoms. And I think that the people that I have talked with, and I do gather with old people like myself, and we discuss the issues. Some of them received the letter in the mail that was sent out with the card to be returned to Mr. Antonin. A lot of them are so disgusted that they said they threw the card away because if the city had anything to do with it, they didn't want to be involved, not realizing the city had not sent that card out. They didn't read the letter, but they knew how they felt. I suggested instead of telling me, who does not have a vote, that it might be better for them to come here and talk to the people that did have a vote. Or if they still feel strong enough in the next election, let that speak for them. And then they can maybe suggest running for office themselves. And but I do know something happens to people when they're campaigning for office. Once they're elected, they're different people. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wants to speak? Is there a new name on there? No, these are all checked. Okay, I'm going to switch over to the hauler side of the meeting then, because it sounds like it appears that all of the citizens that wanted to say something have, unless there's somebody who wants to say something. All right, I want to get a general feel for how many people there are having to do with the haulers that are planning on saying something. And so I see 4 hands out there. and 5 and 6 in here. Does that look like an accurate count to you guys? About 6? So you'd have about 5 to 7 minutes to be able to say your thing. And so if you can try to make sure you stick to that, that would be great. And please introduce yourself as you come to the microphone.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. My name is Doug Carnival. I represent the National Solid Waste Management Association, and we're an association of haulers, small and large. Probably 2/3 of our members in Minnesota are small haulers, not large haulers. As piggybacking on the comments that were made earlier, first of all, Mr. Mayor, your comment about this being the beginning of the process. Remember, if you pass a resolution of intent to organize, it means exactly that you intend to organize. Our suggestion to you is not to do that, because that's a decision to organize, not whether to organize. So that proceeding would be a decision by you to proceed forward. Those periods are not for study. They're for you to decide how, in fact, you're going to organize the city, not whether you're going to organize the city. So if the sentiment is not to do it, don't pass that intent to organize as far as we're concerned.
I have a question for you.
Does it count against my time, Mr. Mayor?
No, it does not. It'll be brief. Seeing as the city has tried this twice before, and once before passed the intent but did not organize, it's obvious that if you pass the resolution with the intent to organize, that you're not required then to organize. Is that not correct?
That's correct, sir. That is
you.
correct, but it's not correct that it's a study period. It's not a study period. It's a period in which you are going to go about doing the organization.
Mr. Carnival, we are able to run that process as we see fit within the state statutes, are we not?
Of course, sir, but you've got to remember that what I explained is what the statute says. It's a period in which you do the organization, not to study whether to do the organization.
And if we choose to study, we can we not?
Of course, but you don't need to pass an intent to organize to have a study.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Carnival.
sir. I may take more than my 5 minutes, and I think the haulers here might be willing to do that if it takes a little longer, if that's okay with you, sir.
Go ahead.
Thank you. As you suspect, we are opposed to going through an organized collection process, or as we call it, government-managed collection, because yes, it is government-managed, because the city will in fact manage how the collection of garbage will take place in the city of Maplewood, and it will do so on behalf of the citizens. You, the city, will decide which hauler or haulers collects all the waste from all the citizens in Maplewood. You, the city, will contract with one hauler or a number of haulers, and the city will become the hauler's customers, not the citizens. You, the city, will have broken the customer relationship between your residents and their selected haulers. Citizens will no longer be able to decide for themselves who hauls their waste in a way that meets their individual needs. These long-standing relationships between the haulers and their customers will be broken because the city decided it wants to manage their service instead of letting the citizens do it for themselves. As I said, we urge you to abandon this plan, as others have suggested tonight. We see this as a solution in search of a problem, sir. There's no public health problem that we're aware of in Maplewood. There's no problem with monopoly in Maplewood. As a matter of fact, if you decide to proceed down this road, you will be in fact creating a monopoly by the city deciding that it's going to be the waste hauler and then contracting the services out to someone else, and you'll be forcing a number of haulers out of the community, telling them they're not permitted to do business here in this community. Do you want to take this management responsibility on yourself? Obviously, these are tight budget times. You think this is going to save the city money? I suggest not. I suggest it's going to cost the city money. At a meeting I was earlier at this year, you already discussed the idea of hiring a consultant to help you through this process. That's obviously going to cost money. Obviously, you'll need an attorney involved. That's going to cost money as well. Do you think drafting and issuing a request for proposals for one or a number of haulers, reviewing those proposals, negotiating a contract, administering and enforcing a contract is going to save the city money? I don't think so. I think it's going to cost the city money and increase the city's budget. This new waste management oversight responsibility that you might take on comes at a price, and obviously the taxpayers have to pay that price. The current open hauling system permits every citizen of the city to make an individual choice on who hauls their waste. They have the ability to change haulers, as many of them have said, if they don't like the current situation. Someone mentioned Falcon Heights. The former mayor of Falcon Heights, much like the former mayor here said, if he's unhappy with the service, he spends 2 phone calls of 30 seconds each. He calls the first hauler up that he has and says, stop coming. He calls the second guy up and says, start coming. That's not the way it works under organized government-managed collection. The city's going to decide for 2, 3, 5 years who the hauler is. You can make a change. The citizens can make a change during that time. Who's going to get the phone calls if there's a dissatisfaction with the service? I suggest the city staff is going to get those phone calls. As a matter of fact, Mr. Mayor, you and your fellow council members may get some of those phone calls either. Do you really want to be in the garbage business? Haulers compete every day on the street to keep their customers and to gain new customers. They do this because that's the way they work. They feel they can more effectively compete door to door and house to house. They do it by exceptional service, by price competition, and that's what the people want. That open system is competition at its finest, and it's the American way. If the City Council decides to go forward and organize managed government collection, you're telling your citizens that you on the City Council know how to do this better than they do, that you on the City Council want to choose who their hauler will be, that you on the City Council will be in the garbage hauling business and manage it better yourself, better than the citizens will do it themselves. You'll hear from the small haulers after me who will tell you that there are other problems with organized or government-managed collection. These are family-owned small businesses, and they could be severely damaged if, in fact, you go to this type of system. They've invested their entire lives. They've developed customer relationships over many, many years, as you've heard about this evening. They may not be able to serve the city at all if you decide to go to this kind of a system. If another hauler is chosen rather than one of the people who competes here, they'll lose hundreds and maybe thousands of customers. Why? Not because they did anything wrong or didn't provide good service, but because the city decided that they had a better idea. This will severely impact their business, and they'll tell you about that. Many small haulers, many of whom are not members of my association who are here, will tell you that they want to compete door to door and decide who they can convince to take their service. You suggested at one point about possibly dividing up the city. This is not a good idea either, and you'll find the small haulers don't agree with that as well, because there's no guarantee that you'll pick a small hauler. If there's competition for those routes that the city might let, you might not pick one of those small haulers, even though your heart might be there. They may be assigned an area that's different from the one they serve now, having to deal with completely different customers. Obviously, there's more administrative and decision-making responsibility on your side that requires more costs, and small family-owned businesses would rather work every day to earn the business of their customers and try to grow their business in that way. If the small haulers aren't the lowest bidders in any particular situation, they may lose many, many customers, and that's going to hurt them. Those who don't win any bid that you provide will no longer be able to do business in the city. Not to mention the fact that even if you divide the city up, there's no guarantee that future city councils may in fact not decide to reduce that down to one hauler, because now the city's the customer, not the citizens. I understand in North St. Paul, before my time, they went to 4 haulers to try and help the small haulers, and ultimately decided to go to 1 hauler. So 3 of the haulers had to leave town because the city moved in that direction. Let me address, if I might, sir, for a minute or two, the road wear and tear issue. Many good comments were made by citizens tonight about that. This is a very complex issue. The streets were designed to take the road where they have. The issue of axle weight, as someone mentioned, is more significant than the number of trucks. That may seem counterintuitive, but it's not. If you have organized collection and 1 hauler or a number of haulers that work for you, they still have to make the same number of stops that the haulers are making now. As a matter of fact, the trucks might be heavier because they're full in the communities that, in fact, you've assigned them, or for the entire city. People talk about studies. I have not seen any studies by any community in the 20 or so we've dealt with in which there's hard data